All right. We are almost there. Should be live. Yes. All right, cool. So, Duke wins 91-87 over Florida State. It was, in some ways, a tale of two halves, although very close game throughout. The first half, Florida State had the lead, or Duke would tie it on a couple occasions late. And then the second half, it was back and forth early, and then Duke had the lead for much of the second half, although Florida State had a number of chances and opportunities where they cut it to a single possession game. But for me, the person I got to start off with is Isaiah Evans, who had his best game of his career. The Auburn game. I know. He had 6 threes in that one, but he at the very least, you can't argue this one scored the most points of his career, 28 points in this one. He also, I thought, played pretty good defense and was just essential for the Blue Devils beating Florida State in a game in which they shot 47% from three, and they came into this one shooting around 30% from three. It is remarkable how often this seems to happen against Duke. But nonetheless, the Blue Devils escaped from Tallahassee with a win. And whether they won by 4 or they won by 30, we feel a lot better if they won by 30, but it all counts the same.
I think all I would have done with your comment about Evans is just say it was his most complete game. And because the Auburn game, it was all that, it was the half that turned it around that was just incredible. Here, it was just free throws, defense, 26 points, 28 points. Beginning of the game, felt like we've seen this movie before when Florida was hitting 3-pointers. We were struggling to get back into it. But all I can say is this was Georgia Tech last game, Florida this game. Not exactly the top of the ACC. Welcome to the ACC, Duke. It's going to be every game like this unless something is strange, because every team will bring their A game against us. We usually it happens at Cameron that some guy goes off for 30 something points, but here we are on the road and a team that shoots an incredible percentage of 3-pointers actually hit an incredible percentage, and for them that was the game. It kept every time we were pulling away, someone hit a timely three.
Yes. I mean, it was. Oh, that's the one I was trying to get. That was bothering me there. It just it felt like this could be the case going into the game, where you had this Florida State team, 7-7. They were second in the country in 3-point attempts per game, but they were around 300th in percentage. But it did feel like it's a home game, their first home conference game of the Luke Locks era. It felt like they could get an above, what would be the right term here? Like an abnormal performance in terms of 3-point shooting. Now, I will say, Chauncey Wiggins, we've seen him a bunch. He used to play for Clemson. He was shooting around 30% coming into this game, and that was below his career averages. So at least with him, I can understand some of it. But like Robert McRae was not a good shooter. He hit several step back. I mean, one of them ended up being a 2, but several step back jumpers and threes. It was a really good shooting performance. We can give him credit to Florida State, but I thought the start of the game, Duke gave Florida State life. They didn't communicate well on threes. They were over helping. They gave up open looks to Somerville, who's Florida State's best shooter. He actually is one of the few guys who shoots a high volume and a high percentage. And we gave up early ones to him. And I felt like also early on in this game, Caden Boozer's reluctance to shoot the ball hurt Duke because it led to a couple of turnovers and then runouts, which led to easy threes for Florida State. So I want to see him be more aggressive. We saw a better Caden Boozer for sure. in the second half, but I think that's going to be important as we move forward and go into the next game on Tuesday.
In a game that we win by
4 points.
4 points, the star of the game for me, Duke's free throw shooting. I mean, after game after game that we're being critical, and this is the 14th game of the season, lights out. I don't, maybe they missed one or two out of 18 or 19 free throws. It was just, and when we go to the stats, we'll check that. But that was, for me, along with Evans having his breakout game.
And Dame Sar. I think based off of, I said in the preview, he's been doing a little bit of a yo-yo act. And so he bounces back after the Georgia Tech game, where prior to that, Texas Tech game was really good for him. And in this game, not just the three-point shooting, but the defense was really good. It's strange we mentioned Sar and Evans having good defensive performances in a game in which Duke gave up the most points they have all season. In their last 4 games, they have given up, those have been the 4 most points they've given up. So the defense is a major concern. As we're feeling good, they won the game, but we can be objective about the fact that Duke's defense has been bad of late. Now, you mentioned Evans, you mentioned the free throw shooting. The funny thing to me is, you've said this a number of times. I've agreed with you. At some point, Duke's free throw shooting was going to cost them a game. And it certainly was a part of them losing the Texas Tech game. But I don't think we ever thought Duke's free throw shooting would win them a game. Because if they would have shot their normal percentage, or even slightly above, they lose this game. And so the way they shot from the free throw line, to your point, is definitely, the key, I would argue, of this win for Duke in what was a very close game against Florida State.
I thought the correctable issue with Duke was defense. I was completely wrong. And that I thought that the free throw shooting, which I said has to get better, but I didn't expect this. I mean, this was insane, and I agree with you. We don't shoot 95% from the free throw line. We don't win, and I think they were looking. It was a very physical game. Boozer got hit every time he touched the ball, and so. Hats off to whatever it was that made them all. I mean, it was sort of like, it was sort of like they were in their heads before the start of this game. If we get fouled, we're collectively not missing a free throw. It got to, I think, 16 in a row. Mm-hmm. And then finally, Boozer missed one.
Cam, to be clear.
Yeah, Cam.
Yeah. And it started with Hemenia, who hit that was the first 2 free throws. And the Blue Devils, they got to the line a lot, but to your point, rightfully so. There's a lot of fouling going on. Now, Duke did foul Florida State, don't get me wrong. It was a very physical game. And you mentioned Cam. And it's a funny game because if you looked at the stats, he only shot the ball 9 times. You might be saying, well, why wasn't he more aggressive? They were double teaming him, sometimes triple teaming him. They were trapping him. They were trying to make sure that he wasn't going to be the guy to shoot it. Now, sometimes he would still get past them and score, but because of that, he ends this game as our leading assist man with 9, and he did a really good job. I think he had 5 in the first half, another 4 in the second. He just did a really good job of reading the floor, making cross-court passes. It was very reminiscent to me in making cross-court passes, finding open shooters on the opposite side. And then, go. You have something you want to say?
Well, I was going to... finish your point, and then I have something I want to add.
I was done. I was going to move to Foster, so keep going.
Well, I was going to say, in a game in which it was more entertaining than we would have liked. Like when we finally got to the lead to 10, I thought we were going to break away, but lo and behold, it got down to 3 again. And they kept it close from there on in. Um, where were the Florida fans? I mean, they're playing Duke, and what a game for their fans to miss. Because maybe they came in 7-7, but still they're playing Duke. What a missed opportunity for fandom there.
Yeah, the only thing I will say in their defense, but I don't know if this is true, their students may still be on winter break, so maybe that's part of what's going on there.
Well, if you're in Florida, I think you're always on break.
Yeah, it's a nice place to go to school, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I mean, maybe it was 75 and sunny there, and they were going, I don't want to be indoors.
Fair. I know the Padres have always had a tough time until recently drawing crowds because everyone's like, I'd rather be at the beach, But Foster, that guy, in the preview, we came to agreement that he's been the second most consistent Blue Devil, and I mean that didn't change today. And the other thing that didn't change, he's been clutch, man. Throughout this season, he's had a number of clutch shots. The Arkansas game, Michigan State game. This game, he hits a big 3 down the stretch. Then he hits 2 free throws at the end of the game as well. We'll get to the stats in a minute, but I just felt like he was really solid again for Duke. And I thought also at the start of the second half, Duke made a little bit of a change and had Foster initiate the offense and Caden Boozer come get it later. He was having a little bit of a difficult time in the first half getting things going offensively. I think that helped Caden get back into the flow a little bit more of the game.
I still love the lineup that they've settled on with Caden and Caleb, and then Isaiah with Pat and Cam. And then the thing that you really want is you want to be able to bring, it's kind of funny. I kept looking at the stats and saying it's a 7-man rotation because everything that Malik did today seemed to influence the game, and yet he only had 13 minutes or something. We'll check that. But this is exactly what we want Dame to do. To come in with more defense and more offense and defense from Dame. What a great thing to do. They tried Harris. They gave him a little bit of time there, but not yet.
Yeah, they gave him 3 minutes. He picked up a couple fouls.
Turnover.
I don't think he had a turnover, but we'll check the stats. We'll confirm in a second. But on Malik, man, is that guy an awesome defensive player. And I actually think his play of the game for me was on offense, where I forgot who, but someone tried to dump it off to him, and the ball got tossed around, and somehow he grabs it and is like in the same motion, throws it to the corner to Caden Boozer, who misses the open 3, but then Malik Brown just gets up and tips it in. And he was just everywhere. He had, I know we looked, he had 2 blocks, should have had 3. There's a phantom foul called on him, which is part of the reason he only played 13 or 14 minutes in this one. But he was really impactful. And he is the 3rd player that we've mentioned who played well defensively in a game in which Duke gave up 87 points. So there's some.
Well, let's give it to Big Pat too, because the first half, that was soft Pat.
Yes.
And then Shire wasn't happy, yanked him at one point, and then the second half, no complaints about Big Pat in the second half.
Yeah, he got pulled after he picked up, I think it was his 2nd foul. He was guarding McCray on the perimeter, put his arm into him, and you could see Shire visibly frustrated, which you don't see very often. And he pulled him right away, and Duke went to a smaller lineup with Cam Boozer at center because Malik had 2 fouls at the time. And, Gangba, it's, to your point, it's mental with him. You can, at times he's very physical and he gets to the spots he wants to get to, and he's aggressive defensively. And at times it's like he's on the court, but he's not really engaged. Would be the word I would use for it. Before we get to the stats, now we mentioned a few guys who played well.
No, before we get to the stats.
Yeah, good call, good call. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Like this video, it really helps us with the algorithm here. And let us know what you guys think in the chat. We're going to get to that in just a few minutes here, so hang in there. We'll be there shortly.
30 more to 2,100.
Okay, all right. Well, let's just jump to the stats. So, Duke shot 53% from the field, 44% from three, 92% from the free throw line.
Wow, we did have 2 misses. 23 of 25. That's a characteristic of a Duke team that, we're not going to shoot 92%. I was looking at that 80%, but that was that won the game. Absolutely won the game.
And Florida State, 53%, 47% from three. They had 13 turnovers to Duke's 15. The turnovers were really the only thing offensively that Duke struggled with in this one. But we'll get to the defense, I'm sure, when we get to the chat. Statistically for the Blue Devils, Cam Boozer, 17 points, 9 assists, 5 boards, 3 turnovers, but he was credited with 4 steals. Gangbai, 10 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, 3 turnovers as well, but 1 steal and 3 blocks for Big Pat. Evans was our leading scorer, 28 points, 6 of 14 from the three-point line, 6 of 6 from the free throw line. Couple of rebounds, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover, 1 steal, and 2 blocks for Mr. Evans. Caden Boozer had a rough start, 4 points in this one, 6 assists, 3 turnovers. I actually thought he could have been credited with at least 1 more and maybe caused another, but I thought he did settle in the second half. And then Caleb Foster, 13 points, 6 boards, 1 assist, 1 turnover. Playing in an off-ball role more so than he has been, so the lower assist makes sense.
Malik, in 14 minutes, it just seemed like we were calling his name all the time, but in 14 minutes had 4 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks, should have been 3. Dame played 23 minutes, 13 points, 3 for 4 from 3, 2 for 3. He is, you were right, that he was the other missed free throw. 3 rebounds. Overall, really, really nice effort. Nick, 10 minutes, and deservedly so. Not certain what's going on there. We do need to create the 8-man rotation, and then Darren only had 3 minutes with 1 steal.
Yeah. Now, I did think Dame should have got a steal because he had a couple of deflections that other guys picked up. As far as I know, that's a scorekeeper's error. You should be credited with the steal if you're the one who causes the deflection that's picked up by someone else. Hemenia, he did not look good pretty immediately. Now, he did end up getting fouled, and he made the free throws, which was probably, got a little contagious, right? Nobody wanted to be the guy to miss the first free throw, so give Nick credit for that, but we haven't seen the Hemenia that we know is there since the Michigan State game when he played really well and had a really important role in that one. But one of the things I love about Shire, especially with this year's team, because he's still trying to figure out who are the main guys on the team. So last game, Dame Sarr was around 12 to 15 minutes, but this one he got 23 minutes because he played much better. And whoever's playing well, he is going to ride with them. And it wasn't a pretty win for sure. But one of the things I like about this Duke team through the first, 14 games in now, is that they have found different ways to win. And as of late, they haven't been able to rely on their defense, but they get their. I think maybe not statistically, because I know they scored over 100 points in a few games earlier on this season, but in terms of caliber of competition, certainly one of their better offensive performances of the season. And so they're just finding different ways, and they certainly shot the ball from the free throw line. This is the best they have all year. So I like the fact that they've been able to find different ways to win these games.
Free throw shooting. I mean, to me, that's how they won the game. If you get to the free throw line 25 times in a game and hit 23 of 25, I don't understand. It is a mental thing. It is contagious. It's something Coach Shire talks about that they do work on all the time. And yet here we are in a close game. And they're burying free throw after free throw. So, I don't know, Jack. I'll leave it to you to determine the medals for this one. But
yeah, we didn't do grades. We said we were gonna do grades. We forgot about that. But medals. There's 5 guys that. Hold on, you gotta lean in. You're leaning in. Yeah, you're leaning out. There's 5 guys I think that are contention. I think there were a number of good performances in this game. I am going with the gold medal, Isaiah Evans. He had a fantastic game. Just fantastic. Silver, Cameron Boozer. It wasn't a typical Cameron Boozer game, but, I mean, he had 9 assists. That's just incredible from your power forward. And 4 steals as well. I know he had a few turnovers. He didn't get the number of rebounds he typically does, but some of that is just the way Florida State plays. The rebounds they're more long rebounds. I thought he was really good in this one. Better defensively, but still gave up, a few buckets for sure. And then the bronze, I'm going Dame Sarr. I thought he gave us really great minutes off the bench. He hit a number of threes. He played good defense. The other 2 guys I definitely think are in contention are Malik Brown and Caleb Foster. What do you think? What do you think, JD?
I think that, sorry, but if I had a gold medal, I'd give it to collectively the team for hitting free throws. I mean, we saw how they lost the game because they couldn't do it. And we saw tonight how you could win a game if you are, they're called free throws for a reason. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, let's leave it there, please. We don't need to hear any more of that. All right. Let's see what we got here. Brody Swing. Can we start tonight's show off acknowledging how great teams play against us? Texas Tech, Georgia Tech, Florida State play out of their minds. The shot making just baffles me. I'm with you on Georgia Tech and Florida State. Texas Tech is a much better team than the other 2. And Christian Anderson's a really good player. But yeah, I mean, teams, going back to last year, NC State, who was not very good last year, had a player who was averaging 2 points a game go off for like 15 or 18 against us. But to your point from earlier, typically that's at Cameron, not on the road. So I don't know.
And usually it's an individual that just goes off for 30-something.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Chauncey Wiggins had, well, that's not updated. Hold on. Chauncey Wiggins had 22. McRae had 22. But Wiggins shot 80% from 3, and McRae was 75. And those guys came into it at below 30%. So, yeah, it does happen quite a lot. Joe M. What's going on, Joe? What a game to finally get our free throws down. Huge performance from Slim tonight, too, with his career high. Also, big shots from Foster and Sarr, too. Maybe the Caden and Foster start helps. Let's see. And then he also says Sarr and Nick's performance, too. Maybe they are more comfortable as bench players. So, I do think Well, yeah, we talked about the free throws. It's a big factor. Good time for them to finally get it down. I don't think it's necessarily a coincidence that Isaiah's offense has started to come alive these last two games with Caden in the starting lineup. I don't think that's a coincidence. But I do think we may differ a little bit on Sar and Nick's performances in terms of Sar. I thought Sar played a lot better than Nick in this one. Anything you want to add?
No, I think it was actually a really good summary in the comment of the game itself.
Yeah. Ryan Jones, what's going on, Ryan? Florida State didn't look like a 7-7 team.
Nope.
They did not. Love how Duke gets everyone's best shot. They made some incredible ones. Florida State made some crazy shots in this game. They really did. Hat tip to them. And then Ryan also says, big time step up game for Slim. Looks like he is finally over whatever bug he had before the new year. Yeah, he looked a lot better tonight. It was a big performance from Isaiah. Laura says, I found out why Big Pat has not been as effective with his shot since the Arkansas game. He has pointer and middle fingers taped together on his right hand.
Yeah, you noticed it there. He said his fingers are taped, but I don't know that explains the entirety of his game. And certainly the shooting part of it. It also seemed as if he had not been playing with the aggression that we want from our big guy, and that the taped fingers wouldn't play a role in that aspect of his game. But the second half, he definitely came alive.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at his stats, the free throw shooting, maybe that's part of what's going on there, where he didn't shoot the free throws well. Michigan State, but we thought some of that was he got hurt on prior to a couple of those. Texas Tech was 2 for 5, and then Georgia Tech was 4 for 9. But interestingly, the 3-point shot, he's 3 of 5 since those games, so it hasn't affected him from 3. But yeah, we're looking at that too, Laura. It certainly can't be helping him. That's for sure. Brody Swing records mean absolutely nothing in the ACC. It's a gauntlet. I'm glad you said that, Brody, because one thing that JD said before, you said, welcome to the ACC, to Duke, right? But I actually think I'm going the other way. Welcome back, Georgia Tech. Welcome back, Florida State. Because, not Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech was very competitive last year. But a lot of these teams in the ACC were not good at all last year. And a lot of them are much better now. Stanford and Cal had wins last night. Virginia is much better. Virginia Tech is much better. There's just a much higher level of competition throughout the ACC. Laura says, please be understanding with his shooting being off for Gangba. Yeah, I don't think either one of us are. We're not really concerned with his shooting. It's more about his aggression with scoring around the rim and then also defensively.
They had a couple of alley-oops to him that were really good. There should be a little bit more of that with Caden and Foster, or Malik, or Cam, for that matter, with 9 assists. I'm thinking about it. But it's just a lack of aggression for the big guy, and he's our big guy. We really don't have, we go with Cam, we go with Malik, but, with Iffy out, I mean, we've got to get him as a dominant force like we've had in the past years with Marky Mark, with the two other big
Lively and Malwatch.
Yeah, I mean, so he's got to play that role. I really, I think there's an opportunity for him to also have like a nice 8-footer. And to your point, it could very well be that his fingers are taped and he doesn't have a good touch from there. But inside, I think he could play harder, needs to clear space for rebounding. There's a couple other things to his game that we're going to need to rely on.
Yeah. He can affect the game in a lot more than shooting. for Big Pat, and we've seen it. And I think we saw actually a lot of it in the second half in this one. Joe M says our defense still needs a lot of work.
Apparently so.
Yes.
Over the last 4 games, it's been rough.
It's been rough. I also think, to other people's comments, we have been a little bit unlucky in terms of how well our opponents are shooting the ball. I mean, Georgia Tech was at 73% through 25 minutes. That was insane. Even if you were playing no defense, that would be hard to do. And then tonight, I mean, Florida State was well above their averages in this one. But it does need a lot of work. Too many miscues. Duke Hoops, what's going on, man? Was almost jumped inside of a Tallahassee Buffalo Wild Wings just afterwards. Just kidding. Well, maybe there were more Florida State fans there than at the game. That shot of the arena, I felt bad for the Florida State players. They should have had a bigger crowd. GMAD, what's going on? Insanely. What do you think that is? Aberrant? Aberrant. That's a word?
Yes.
Thank you.
Out of the ordinary.
Thank you for teaching me. Shooting from FSU, but that was an embarrassing defensive performance against a mediocre team. For all the talk of Duke's superiority, FSU often looked the dominant team. And, that was something my mom, Daddy's wife, said, post-game is that while Duke may be the superior team, they only look like it for a few moments of that game.
Look, if you're playing against a 3-point shooting team, then your defense had to be designed that way, especially since every time they scored 2 points inside, we breathed a sigh of relief that it wasn't a 3-pointer. I'm surprised that there wasn't more in-your-face guarding to prevent the threes or the opportunities, hands out, deflections, things to do to stop it. And Laura, I did see the comment that I should be very happy about the free throw shooting, and I've said it many times that I am. And I'm the guy that still goes out in his driveway and can shoot 90% from the free throw line when there's no one there. Mm-hmm. And therefore, I do understand that when I'm critical, it's one thing to be in the gym by yourself or even with your teammates, and it's another thing to be playing in game conditions. So I am just completely proud of the way that somehow they got it together and they were able to shoot 23 of 25.
Yeah, and I think, they didn't fix everything. We were all talking about the defense, rightfully so, but at least they fixed something. And I think we can be happy about that, and it was a step forward in certainly that aspect of the game.
It's interesting because if in this game somehow we prevail because of free throw shooting, there will be a game, I don't know, maybe Louisville, where it's going to be the defense that is going to lock down, and that will be the reason we win. And we're going to win games in different ways in the ACC this year where the competition is much harder.
It's going to be a gauntlet. And the one thing I think, in terms of the defense that needs to be addressed is the fact you mentioned the scouting, right? Like early on in the game, we're giving up wide open threes to a team that wants to shoot. They would shoot contested threes. And so the one thing that I thought got better, even though at the end of the game they hit some really tough threes, but I felt like we were at least forcing them to shoot some mid-range twos. And I felt like the process defensively got better in the second half, even if the results didn't necessarily, because, Florida State, as Anthony Ingram says, what's going on, made some epic shots that most teams are not going to take and especially make. The one thing that I think is good for Duke, they put up a graphic in that game that if Florida State continues to shoot, I think they're at like 54% of their total shots are from three. That would be a record of major conference teams in college basketball, but it would only put them in second place behind Louisville, who shoots a slightly higher percentage of their shots from three. And I think it's good preparation for Duke, going similar style matchups, going from this Florida State team to a Louisville team, which is better, don't get me wrong, and is going to be very hungry coming off of a loss to Stanford. And we'll talk about that maybe a little bit more at the end of this show, but certainly more in the preview, which we will do either tomorrow or Monday. We'll leave that for another time. But I think stylistically it's good for the process for the Blue Devils. Now, GMAT says the concerning thing is the number of miscues we're still seeing this far into the season. Stupid things like Sarr passing back over the half-court line or losing a Florida State player on that one inbounding play. Yeah. Now, the Sarr one, I felt like, maybe I'm misremembering this, but I felt like he got an offensive rebound. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know if he had any offensive rebounds. He did. Okay, so it's possible that's what happened. And then he was in a crowd and he was looking to kick the ball out, and I don't think he realized that Caden was basically at the other 3-point line. But your point on losing, it was Chauncey Wiggins with 1.7 seconds left on the shot clock. That's inexcusable. He was their leading scorer for much of the game. He was the tallest player on the court. How do you not mark him with that short of time and give up a layup there? That's part of the, you could say some of it was really good shooting by Florida State, but some of it was just bad defense by Duke.
I was just looking at GMAT's comment. No, up higher. The concerning thing is...
We just read that one.
Oh, I thought... Okay, fine. Okay.
Next one. Go, Laura.
In other Duke news, UCF coached by Johnny Dawkins, who was part of the backcourt with Harvard coach, now Tommy Amaker, and what brought Duke back under Coach K. His team beat Kansas 81-75. Good for him. It either means that it was just an amazing win, and don't know is he playing now regularly?
You're going Darren Pearson. So yeah. I don't know what it is with Darren Pearson and the hamstring or the cramps, but apparently didn't get a chance to watch that one. He played a little bit more than a half. He had another game where he had 20-something points. He had a couple of blocks. He had a number of threes, but then couldn't finish the game. That is, listen, it's not a major injury, but it is concerning. It's like the fourth time, and he's only played 5 or 6 games. He can't finish a game. But a great win for UCF. The exhibition, I was a little concerned after that, but they're 12-2, I believe now. So really good result for UCF. Brody Swing says Caleb Foster has been extremely clutch this year. Certainly has been. Joe M. Sad that Harris only got the 3 minutes today. Shire took him out after his second foul, and that was the last we saw him. Makes sense because he didn't want to risk it in a close game, but still wish we did. Yeah, I wish he got another run there in the second half, but I also understand the holistic coaching approach, and it was a very close game, and he was just trying to get his best defenders on the court there.
I think he was also playing for the win, because otherwise we both thought that this was a really good opportunity for Evans. I think if they had gone zone, then I think maybe we would have saw a little bit more of Evans.
Harris. Sorry.
Harris.
You got me mixed. You always say that. It gets me mixed up.
I don't know why.
Mr. Moore, what's going on, man? What's y'all's opinion on the team's chemistry? You know how last year Coop or Sion could drive in and throw it over their shoulder, and knew Reese or Khan would be there to catch it. This team, not so much. It's a very good point, Mr. Moore. It's a very good point.
I'll take that one.
You go first.
$5 into the kitty, it's not last year's team. Last year's team, those 5 players were incredible. And Jack and I talk about it all the time, that we still say with that team, the Houston game that we Final four number one teams, we could have won it, should have won it, but we didn't. You know what? And I'm not even upset about the loss because we had the ball to at least tie it or win it on Coop's last shot. But the chemistry for this group is not as good. I mean, it's just not as good. It's going to take a while. There's individual things. So I've talked about on our YouTube channel that the Boozer brothers have this innate chemistry because they played with each other so many times. And Dame coming over from Europe is not quite in there yet. It is a lot of individual play, with the exception of Boozer. We don't have one of those guards that has a dominant number of assists in a 40-minute game, such as the guy on Michigan State. Fears is one of them. There's
Braden Smith.
I mean, we don't have that, one guy who knows where everyone is. And so it means that everyone has to connect. And you're absolutely right. Last year's team was just unworldly at how they could do that. And this year's team, maybe it's just going to take longer.
Well, I'm glad you got there at the end of your analysis there because number one, Mr. Moore, I think it's a great question. So I'm really happy you asked it. I think we got to remember last year's team offensively, it took them till about this point to really get it going. Like Khan was not, the Khan that we remember for the first month or two of the season.
Well, it went up and down.
He started off good, but then the next
Right.
8 to 10 games, it was like 2 games where he was good. And he kind of struggled. Now, he did have like 8 assists against Kansas, but the offensive flow wasn't quite the same. It took them really until the new year in conference play where they really got into a rhythm. Now, this was a really good offensive performance, so I would say it looked better today. But I also think one of the things is stylistically, there's a big difference in that last year you had Coop, you had Khan, and you had Tyrese, and you even Sion at times, who were all capable of operating out of the pick and roll and getting downhill and driving to the rim and then kicking it out. This year's team, we really don't have a lot of guys who do that. Foster can do that a bit. Caden does that a bit, but he's not, like, he doesn't have the threat of his 3-point shot. So the defense is kind of collapsing on, or staying back on him. And so the style in which we play is just different in terms of it's more out of the post with Cameron Boozer, who's then looking to survey out of double teams and kick out cross-court passes. So I think maybe stylistically it's a little bit harder to find the rhythm with that style. Maybe it'll come as time goes on.
Malik's insane pass to,
that was crazy.
To Caden. Talk about chemistry. That was like he hooked it and knew exactly where he wanted to get the ball to the wide open player. I don't know if we're going to see that happen too many more times, but that was great.
And one final point before we move on. We haven't seen as much of Gangba or Malik operating at the top of the key and then guys cutting off of them. We haven't seen as much of that of late. And I'm not sure necessarily why that is, other than teams' bigs maybe playing in drop because they're not worried about Malik or, and to a lesser extent, Gangba shooting the 3.
So he's 3 for 5.
In his last 6 games. But yeah. Tyler Keller, solid today. He sure was. Jeremy Farrell, Duke did a good job on free throws. Evans was awesome. This was a real good game, but real close. And Foster, too, he did a real good job. Agreed. Joe M., I'd maybe put Foster ahead of Cam Boozer today for performance. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a fair statement because, Cam did give up a few buckets for sure, but I felt like his creation and playmaking was just really important for Duke. Tyler Keller also says Foster is playing great. GMAD, to your fandom point, I used to go watch the football games when FSU came to Duke many years ago. Even though Duke football was horrible back then, still a good opportunity to see FSU football. Right.
Right.
Right. I completely agree, GMAD. Duke Hoops. Lazy closeouts I tend to see. There has to be a reason they shot like 73-9 Warriors. Yeah, the closeouts, the communication. I'm glad you brought that up, Duke Hoops. That's the other thing I want to say about the chemistry point that Mr. Moore had brought up. This team won games earlier on this season that last year's team didn't. They just didn't. So, and I think through the Michigan State game, this team was really connected defensively. It hasn't been the last 4 games. So I wonder if they can get back to that. But, I do think they have it, or maybe a better way to put it is they had it. They seem to have lost it. Can they get it back? That's where I'm at with them. GMAD. There was one shot Cam missed, and then he just lazily walked back towards the Duke basket, and FSU ran down and got a 3. You've got to move your feet no matter what happened on offense. Agreed. There's that seems something like that happens with Cam a couple of times a game where he's just not engaged, or I don't know what would be the right word for, because they're different. They're different things that happen, but in that same vein that you're talking about, GMAT.
Agreed. We've marked on it that he could go. I forget which game, as long as 10 minutes where he just didn't seem involved. And it was certainly like the Army game. It was like, do I really have to play today?
GMAT. Sar finally hit some shots, but honestly, I often feel like he's a liability when he's out there. He keeps making silly mistakes. Right now, Sar, I think he's a good defensive player. I think he's a good corner 3 shooter on offense. And outside of that, I don't have a lot of confidence if he's driving the ball or to make a decision. I think he clearly lacks strength because when he drives, people are able to rip the ball from him. And he can't score through contact. So unless he's in transition, it's going to be tough for him to score around the rim. But listen, this was a really important performance from Dame Sar today. So I think it was a step forward for him. Now, can he make it 2 in a row? That's been a little bit of an issue for him, the consistency. Can we see a little bit more from him?
We can't have a 6-man rotation. If it's just going to be the starting 5 of the last 2 games plus Malik. So it's got to be Sar. We hope it is Nick as well, with Malik coming off the bench. So it's an 8-man rotation. So we're going to have to live with some of this up and down until maybe the consistency comes.
All right. Let's see. Laura and GMAD on Hymenia. Nick has not been practicing due to when he hurt his ankle. And GMAD says Hymenia doesn't look like he's moving well. He certainly looks hurt. And we didn't bring it up at the start, but we've been talking about Hymenia has not been practicing. He hasn't looked like himself. And so you almost wish that they would have sat him down, but at this point it seems like he's going to keep playing. But he doesn't look like himself. Agreed. Joe M. Seemed like FSU's game plan was to attack Boozer with their guards in the second half. That's exactly what Texas Tech did to us too, trying to get us to switch Boozer on the guy with the ball. And I would throw in Georgia Tech. They did the same thing. They are going after Cam Boozer defensively. It's been a theme. And I am curious to see what Duke and Shire's adjustment is going to be as we move forward. All right, we'll try to run through the rest of these. We've been going for a while. If you guys are still with us, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate you guys. It makes it a lot of fun because we're getting all your perspectives here. GMAT, we had some good rebounding, but some bad. I was surprised since we seem to have size on them. It seemed like we weren't looking for those balls at times. Florida State was much more aggressive. Yeah, it felt like that. It did. Um, but Duke was able to find it late. They did find it late. They got some key ones late, which helped them win the game. They ended up out rebounding Florida State 31-24, but I think it was I don't know this, but I feel like it was much more even towards halftime. Laura says it must have been a twin thing today with turnovers. Both Cam and Caden had 3 turnovers each. Yeah, it was not ideal. 15 in the game as a team. Got to clean that up. GMAT. Maybe the free throws are just the law of averages. Of course, we'll have to shoot 92% for another 5 games or so.
It would be nice.
I felt we were really missing the rim protection this game. Late in the game, Foster picked up a foul because I think he didn't trust Pat to block it at the rim. Yeah, in the first half, that was certainly the case. Pat, I felt like you mentioned this before, tale of two halves for him physicality-wise. He was much better defensively in the second half. But I don't know. Rim protection, was part of it, but the threes were really, to me, what were the biggest problem. What do you think of the rim protection?
It wasn't great, and that's why I want Pat to be more aggressive around the rim and let the others take care of the three-point shooting. Certainly if you have Caden, Caleb, and Isaiah out there, they should be quick enough and have size enough to at least have a hand on, as long as they're switching. And that, at times was better today, even though we gave up as many points, but a lot of uncontested threes. So, the rim protection wasn't as important today because of how many shots they were taking from 3.
Lawrence Freeman. How's it going, Lawrence? I guess I'll be okay sacrificing defense for offense by starting Caden if they're going to score 90 points a game. It's interesting you bring that up because I was thinking about that too, and I think it would be more cut and dry for me if the defense started looking bad as soon as they started with the Caden, but it was already not good before they starting Caden. So I think it's probably part of it. Don't get me wrong. And this was the most points they've given up in a game this season. But they look better offensively. So they're, hopefully they can at least be better than this defensively. This is going to be a tough way to continue winning games. Joe M says, hopefully Duke gets one area of their overall performance back, one game at a time, hopefully by the Michigan game. Agreed, Joe. We're going to need it. Going to need it for that one. Duke Hoops. Free Darren Harris. Shire's going to lose his loyalty if he keeps teasing him on his minutes. Darren could absolutely be a vital floor stretcher for next year's insane squad. I think he can help this year's team.
Yes.
I think he can help.
Next year, yes. But this year, we want him to get more minutes. We absolutely do.
And right now, like Nick, GMAD, Laura, we brought up, he doesn't look right. And instead of I feel like this is an opportunity. Instead of keep throwing him out there when he's not healthy, and I know probably part of it is that he is Cam's backup at the 4 position because Dame Sar is not strong enough to play that position. So we would be going really small with Darren in the rotation instead of Jimena. But until Jimena is healthy, we're not getting the same. He just can't perform is what I'm at the way he was. And so I would rather sit him down and let him fully recover and then bring him back and give that opportunity to Darren to see what he can do.
Well, and you could do that. There is not many teams use it. There is another zone, a 3-2 zone, where you can put 3 guys stretch it out against a 3-point shooting team and then have, let's say Cam and Malik or Cam and Big Pat underneath, and by putting three guys on the perimeter, you can hopefully have enough defense to be able to shield against the three. I would have liked him to vary it, especially today where it's just more of the same. It's more of the same. And he's been so effective, Shire, when he does it. It just changes up the flow. So I would have liked it.
Yeah, I can go back and forth between 3-2, 2-3. 3-2, you're preventing the top of the break threes, but in the 2-3, you're at least taking away the corner threes, which are a little bit easier shot. There's also, I found out there's a team in college, a lower ranked mid-major that runs a 4-1 zone. Have you heard of that one?
4-1, no.
You have your center in the paint, but the other four guys are spread out across the 3-point line. Could be good against like a Louisville, for example. But I think there are ways to get Harris into the lineup. Let's see, a couple more here before we sign off. GMAD, Caden does seem to always drive, even when he has room to go up for three. Don't know if that's a lack of confidence or just his default. I think it's probably both. I think he defaults to driving, and I think he doesn't have a lot of confidence right now in his three. He was coming off a game where he was 0 for 4 against Georgia Tech, and this one he only shot one. So I think it's a lack of confidence right now, and probably also his default. Laura says, as they play games more consistently, it will start clicking. Agreed. I think
that's the chemistry.
That's the chemistry, and also the last 3 weeks of playing, two games, then a 10-day break, then another, or what was it? 3 games, 3 big games, 10-day break, 2 games, 10-day break. It's hard to build a rhythm right now, so I think that's a reason for what's going on. And then finally, Duke Hoops. I personally like the idea of trapping literally every single ball screen, or at least have the pick up the ball handler high and early like Houston does. That would be I like that when Malik's in the game, because I think he's certainly capable. I'm not sure if Gangba has the lateral quickness to do that, but Malik certainly does. And I would love a more aggressive defense as opposed to, I don't know what you would call the defense we've been playing of late. All right, so with that, we will be back with the preview for the Louisville game, which is going to be a huge game, which will be Tuesday at 7 o'clock. We will have that preview for you guys either tomorrow or Monday. Probably tomorrow, because we're going to do the college show on Monday. So we'll do that for you guys tomorrow. Be on the lookout for that preview, and we'll see you guys post-game after Louisville. Until then, peace. All right.